Hello, I'm continuing to read from the classic, one of the best ever written, 1984 by George Orwell. Let's just continue. He sat back. No, I think I've read that. For whom it suddenly occurred to him to wonder, was he writing his diary? For the future, for the unborn, his mind hovered for a moment round the doubtful date on the page, and then fetched up with a bump against the newspeak word doublethink. For the first time, the magnitude of what he had undertaken came home to him. How could you communicate with the future? It was of its nature impossible. Either the future would resemble the present, in which case it would not listen to him, or it would be different from it, and his predicament would be meaningless. For some time he sat gazing stupidly at the paper. The telescreen had changed over to strident military music. It was curious that he seemed not merely to have lost the power of expressing himself, but even to have forgotten what it was that he had originally intended to say. For weeks past he had been making ready for this moment, and it had never crossed his mind that anything would be needed except courage. The actual writing would be easy. All he had to do was to transfer to paper the interminable restless monologue that had been running inside his head, literally for years. At this moment, however, even the monologue had dried up. Moreover, his varicose ulcer had begun itching unbearably. He dared not scratch it, because if he did so, it always became inflamed. The seconds were ticking by. He was conscious of nothing except the blankness of the page in front of him, the itching of the skin above his ankle, the blaring of the music, and a slight booziness caused by the gin. Suddenly he began writing in sheer panic, only imperfectly aware of what he was setting down. His small but childish handwriting straggled up and down the page, shedding first its capital letters and finally even its full stops. April 4th, 1984. Last night to the flicks. All war films. One very good one of a ship full of refugees being bombed somewhere in the Mediterranean. Audience much amused by shots of a great huge fat man trying to swim away with a helicopter after him. First you saw him wallowing along in the water like a porpoise. Then you saw him through the helicopter's gun sights. Then he was full of holes and the sea round him turned pink, and he sank as suddenly as though the holes had let in the water. Audience shouting with laughter when he sank. Then you saw a lifeboat full of children with a helicopter hovering over it. There was a middle-aged woman, might have been a Jewess, sitting up in the bow, with a little boy about 3 years old in her arms. Little boy screaming with fright and hiding his head between her breasts, as if he was trying to burrow right into her, and the woman putting her arms around him and comforting him, although she was blue with fright herself, all the time covering him up as much as possible, as if she thought her arms could keep the bullets off him. Then the helicopter planted a 20-kilo bomb in among them. Terrific flash, and the boat went all to matchwood. Then there was a wonderful shot of a child's arm going up, 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 right up into the air. A helicopter with a camera in its nose must have followed it up, and there was a lot of applause from the party seats. But a woman down in the pro part of the house suddenly started kicking up a fuss and shouting. They didn't order of showed it not in front of the kids. They didn't order right not in front of the kids. It ain't until the police turned her out. I don't suppose anything happened to her. Nobody cares what the pros say. Typically pro reaction, they never. Winston stopped writing, partly because he was suffering from cramp. He did not know what had made him pour out this stream of rubbish. But the curious thing was that while he was doing So a totally different memory had clarified itself in his mind to the point where he almost felt equal to writing it down. It was he now realized because of this other incident that he had suddenly decided to come home. It had happened that morning at the ministry. If anything so nebulous could be said to happen. So here you see writing and propaganda, how films are used in a tyranny. They're hard, they're violent, and violence becomes humorous. So there you go. We also see the pros they introduce. So these are the lower class people. And we're going to find out that the pros have actually more freedom than Winston. He actually hints at it. So that's a very interesting thing. But until next time, I want to say thank you and take care of your mind, take care of your body, and be safe.